Hello and welcome to Spiritual Fertility. I am so grateful to have all of those who have been led to this podcast, to this YouTube, to all of the ways that this episode is going out to you, that you were meant to hear it. And I am grateful for those new to this show and who are listening for the first time, and to those who have continued to be on this journey with me. I am just over the moon excited for the conversation that is going to be brought to you today. I have my friend Heather Parady today, and before I introduce her and we start our conversation, I first want to take you back to my experience working with Heather and the relationship that we've built over the last, boy, now it's probably 5 years. It's about 5 years now. Goodness.
Wow.
But we met through LinkedIn, another person that came into my life through LinkedIn way back when. And I think it was 2019 because I recently went through our LinkedIn messages to see when it was. And you were interviewing different people. And I remember telling my story, my fertility story to you through LinkedIn. And then um, Heather was such an integral part of, I was reminiscing through the pandemic with her Unconventional Leaders Facebook group that was just this beautiful community of creatives and leaders and business entrepreneurs. I mean, it was just this collection of everyday people working through life during the pandemic, coming on live for coffee chats and talking about what's going on in their life and different topics that we could go through. But the most impactful part that Heather has played in my life is actually related to this podcast itself. This podcast had been on my heart for many years before it came to fruition, but Heather is a huge part of that because right after I received like the full on nudge to like get moving on the podcast, I think it was a week later that Heather had put out a challenge. And it was a challenge for all those who had a creative project that they held in their heart that they wanted to complete. And this was over the summer, and 111 days. And I was like, oh, okay, she's got that spiritual, like, 111 in her. I'm like, this is perfect for me. So I joined in the accountability and the support that her guidance gave, and asked questions about where do I even start with the podcast. And lo and behold, Heather had a course that directed me in my journey, and here we are today. I mean, talk about full circle, like,
Mm.
holding my hands and like giving me support through this. And then here we are, you coming on to be a guest with me. So, Heather, I just want to welcome you and tell you how much I love your support and you as a person and the inspiration and guidance that you've given to me over the years. So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Make it even more weird. I have a practice where I try to go through an old journal every year. So I'm a big journaler. I write almost every day, but I also love going and rereading old journals. I think it's interesting to see patterns and remember things and so forth. And I'm going through 2019 right now. And I literally this morning read about how I'm doing LinkedIn leaders and going on LinkedIn and my intention with messaging people on LinkedIn and building relationships there. And this morning I thought, I completely forgot that I did that. And then we had this, and I didn't remember that our relationship is from LinkedIn. So that's really, really wild. I read that this morning and here we are. So it's wild how life works. It's very interesting.
It is interesting. And what a great intention for this episode. We talked a little bit beforehand and one came to me, but I feel like it's meant to be shared, the wildness, right, of our life and the synchronicities that can come in and
Mm.
really provide that clarity or provide that movement for us, to keep moving forward on that journey, but also to be mindful of where we are in that
Hmm.
place, and to be present, to flow with it,
Yeah.
to move forward with it. So let's talk about a little bit about who you are, Heather. There's so much to you, but how about talk about what you're doing now in your life, and then we can kind of go back to what brought you to where you are today, because you are a I thought of you as a creative entrepreneur. So, but you are a, tell me the word you used before right now,
I say
creative,
creative consultant, but I
creative
say, I mean,
consultant.
yeah, I'm a creative
Yeah.
entrepreneur. Lately, I've been saying entrepreneurial creative. I mean, whatever word you want to use.
Sure,
At the
sure.
end of the day, my heart, I know that I'm called and put on this earth to lock arms with leaders. And when I say the word leaders, I've always said unconventional leaders. When I entered into this space, when you look up that term, it's usually one stereotypical manifestation of what a leader looks like. It usually involves the corporate world and a certain gender and a certain skin tone and so forth. But my experience has been some of the wacky, outside of the box, strange, different people, our leaders who have a mission and a message on their heart to disrupt their industries and lead in a way that maybe not has a position or a title, but they make their own, kind of like you with this, with your show, and using your own experience and your own story and your own learnings to reach other people through this microphone. I mean, that's no small feat, and it's not easy. It's lonely. It can be overwhelming, and those are my people. So I've helped those people in a variety of ways, whether it be through Facebook groups or interviews or podcasting. I've helped in the kind of sales side of stuff with the digital space, but lately I've been really leaning into top of funnel community building, evergreen content. How do we find these folks? I mean, that's really nerdy and boring, but all that to say, I help unconventional leaders get their message out there and connect with their people.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And we need people to do that, right? Like all
Yeah.
aspects of that. And I really connect with you on the unconventional leader aspect, because, I did 23 years in corporate, various different industries, and was involved in some different companies, and then shifted um several years ago into teaching. But like, leaders take on many forms, right? Like
Yep.
they're your boss,
Yep.
but leaders are also your friend, right? Who points you in the right direction through a conversation that you can have,
Hmm.
um and they run companies, but they also put themselves out there in a way that
Right.
that appeals to others. And I like
Right.
how the unconventional term, because um, we're not cookie cutter, right? We're
No.
unique, and we're forging
No.
our own paths, no
Yes.
matter what
Yes.
anyone tells us.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. That just, I mean, that just lights me up. I get so freaking excited about it. I mean, just thinking about, man, I've had, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, you know, 16-year-old kids who are building things and wearing Converses, and my goodness, the whole world needs to turn their ear to them, all the way to someone who looks and moves in this world completely different and maybe labeled with all these different, our friend Nathan Todd, all these different labels. But man, they have fire in their bones that this world needs. And so just being able to elevate those voices and channel out on it, it's just such a freaking gift. And I know why I was put on this earth.
Yeah. And so, but knowing that, right, learning that
Mhm.
has come with years of self understanding, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
take us back to like Heather. I mean, young Heather, like well, let's bring in the spiritual side of this, because we were
Sure.
talking a little bit beforehand, because, spiritual fertility is about creative, right? Being
Mhm,
creative,
mhm,
birthing new creations, all of that. But
mhm, mhm.
there's that side that brings in that spirituality, and kind of like walks you through that. So as a young child, like, you were spiritual. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
asked you earlier before we talked on, before we hit record, about your experience with spirituality as a young girl. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm of the mindset, Everything is Spiritual. I don't know if you read Rob Bell's book, Everything is Spiritual.
I have not. I'm
I
gonna have
freaking
to
love
now
that
though.
book. I love that idea. It's just like everything that we do and we move and we are is spiritual, and just some people realize and some people don't, you know. When I was a kid, I was telling you, I just had a lot of supernatural experiences at an early age. I was very attuned to other things in the room and other beings and physically seeing things. Um, some of it kind of scary and dark, a lot of it light, and
Mm,
a lot of it neutral, kind of like, what is that? I remember like
mm.
asking my mom, who's that woman right there? And she said, there's, what woman are you talking about? And I just remember seeing
Oh.
a woman like just standing in my living room, just looking directly at me. I can still see her right now in my mind, you know, all the way from like physical things like that to just feeling, that there's something else in the room, or there's, very intuitive with people, and, yeah, just so keenly aware that there's something off with this man. Stay away from him. You know what I mean? And I think kids are a lot more sensitive to that. I don't think that's something quote special that I had or anything. I think a lot of kids experience it. We just get that beaten out of us where, oh, it's your imagination, or it's the devil, or,
Mm.
fill in the blank. And so it starts, I mean, even now I feel pretty open and I feel very spiritual and I feel really settled into myself, but I still excuse anytime I bring up this subject, like, hey, is it okay if I get a little weird or a little woo? And it's still this conditioning around something that's so natural and everyday. And I think we've just closed our ears to it as grown-ups. And so it's been interesting, to answer your question. I kind of entered into this world from kind of a supernatural understanding of like, hey, we're not alone. And then really ran to the church for a variety of reasons as a teenager and young adult, and went into ministry school and became a minister and all that stuff, where I knew that I was called by God to do something. I knew I was. I mean, even when I was a little girl, I would like set up a pulpit and play preacher with my teddy bears, like weird. Like I'm just really weird. But I just knew that ministry, some kind of like spiritual work, was my calling. And, when you have a reference point of what does that look like? I grew up in the South. And so we had on, BTN, and, I don't know if y'all know Jesse Duplantis and Kenneth Copeland and, all these preachers and stuff. And so I kind of translated my spiritual understanding into this world of, hey, you're going to be a pastor or something like that. And I pursued that. That was the intention of my life till around the age of 30, 31, early 30s. So just a few years ago. I'm 38 now. And I just kind of had a big crash with my understanding of all of that, and really just left the church altogether. And I've been slowly finding my way back to God. I was telling someone earlier that I haven't written a book yet, but when I do, it's going to be about the way back to God through creativity, because I feel like the spiritual or the creative practice, the creative process has just kind of rebirthed in me a relationship with God, not through the church, not through religion, but through creative work. And I think it's a really powerful tool. I think it is a church in and of itself for folks who have been hurt, don't understand why they're not accepted in a building. Man, they can go freaking paint a picture and find God through that.
Wow, so powerful. I mean, I'm just like feeling all this as you explain that, because I can relate. I know that the listeners who are going to hear that will be able to relate too, because we can be like, shut down. And I like how you talked about it. It could be the devil or your imagination. I mean, like I work with kids now, and it's just so interesting to find out from them too, just through conversations, like what their parents tell them is real or not
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
versus, what they hear or what they tell others and how they're treated. I mean, like when you're looking at it from that perspective, I mean, it's no wonder, right? We all kind of like retreat like through our
Yeah.
different phase of our life, and as we kind of find ourselves and understand us more is what ourselves better and more, that we can like have that courage to kind of come out of our shell and be authentic. But
Yeah.
it's interesting how you're so right, because you have this like creative outlet that is spiritual. It is
Hmm.
God, source, higher self, whatever like
Right, right.
people equate with that. I love that perspective, that you share from it. And so what type of spiritual tools have kind of led you in your journey? I know we talked a little bit about human design, and that's something that's been brought up on this podcast, and
Mhm,
something that we've kind of connected on in your
mhm,
human design. You've used that tool. We talked about numerology as well a little bit,
mhm,
but
mhm.
talk a little bit about how, like, your human design had kind of helped you shift your business and helped you lean into understand yourself better and how you work.
Yeah. And, and let me put a pin in that because I want to back up and say, when you asked about kind of spiritual practice or whatever, I think what's been challenging for me and very intentional is trying to not close down channels to God because of uh, preconditioned narratives
Mm-hmm.
around what certain things are. So if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would be looking at human design or numerology, I would probably be on the ground crying, saying, "Oh my God, what happened to my soul?" Like that would have like
Right.
freaked me the hell out.
I didn't even think of that, because you're on a path to be a preacher, right? And
I
to a
was one.
minister. You
Yeah, I was
were, right. You were.
licensed. Yeah, and
Okay.
so
Okay.
I come from a very evangelical Christian,
Mm,
very strict. I You would not have liked me or respected me 15, 20 years ago. I was the person I stood on street corners with signs. I signed petitions. I judged people. I was very critical. I was
mm,
very, very, very black and white.
mm,
I was one of the most
mm-hmm.
black and white people you had ever met. And really, that came from me trying to overcompensate for my own shame. And I've come to learn how uh, I, I was trying to become powerful um, because of my own inadequacy or what I felt was my
Mm,
inadequacy. And so
mm-hmm.
we're trying to
Okay.
overcompensate for that. So I try to remember that now dealing with religious people. I'm like, I know this is coming from a lot of insecurity and pain. It's still hard because I'm like, what are you talking about? But I just want to be like fully transparent with that because this isn't just like, oh, I always had like just this spiritual connection. I've really experienced it more distorted than free. And I've been exploring the freedom side. So when you say spiritual practice, this is new for me.
Uh-huh.
But really understanding like these different channels, these different ways that people can hear from God and experience God, whether it's through, looking at your birth chart, or whether it's, an artist teaching you art, or whether it's a somatic healer or somebody in meditation. It's all these different sides to God. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Human design, you mentioned that. That's relatively new for me. I had a person that I randomly got connected with, and he said that he did branding, but used something called human design to help your brand. And I'm like, I don't know what human design is, but I need some help with my brand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was thinking like this weird questionnaire of like, who's your target audience and some of the normal stuff that we get when we think about branding. And he's like, what's your birthday? And I'm like, why? You know what I mean? But then when he just did like this little intro thing of like, okay, here's your birthday, here's what it means. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, oh my God, he literally read my book. So I hired him for like 4 sessions or whatever. I'll give you his name so y'all can link it up in the show notes if anybody wants to go through his stuff. It's really good, not affiliated or whatever. But he went through like my channels and was like, all right, Heather, you have a very strong administrative gift and you have a very strong visionary gift. Your superpower is being able to connect the vision with the execution, right? That's what I've done. You know that. I help find, the people who have the vision implement it. He also showed me, that there is a tie between the helpers and income, that I help people make income who have a helper's heart. Most helpers don't like the thought of having to make money or ask people for money or whatever like that. I'm uniquely positioned to do that. He showed me in my chart that I have a communication channel, and then I'm here to help the prophets articulate their voice. And so people who are here to prophesy, whatever way you want to, you know, language you want to use around that, I'm here to articulate and communicate that. And that's what I do. People come to me and they're like, bleh! I have this, all this heart. And I'm like, oh, so this. And they're like, yeah, that's it. And then we get a game plan. And so that's what I've been doing this whole time. And it's interesting to me that we don't need permission. We don't need somebody to come in and tell us these things. Like, it's not like he told me something new, but for a stranger to come in and point to centers on my body based off of the time I was born, it just reaffirms that there's something bigger at work, and we're not alone, and we don't have to come up with stuff on our own and struggle and figure things out alone. All we have to do is tap in to this source that has our book read, has a plan for us, and we can rest in that.
For sure. And that's scary to do, right? Like to like, be open to those things that are out there. Like you said, you going back, you couldn't have imagined you'd be talking about
No.
that. Me neither. Scary. Like, what the heck are you talking about? Birth chart and numerology and Akashic records and like
Yeah.
my friend Danielle talk all the time. Like, no one would believe us when we talk about like the dream we had or the
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
that we went to. But it's okay to talk about and be out there. That's the space that this provides. And you, um, before when we were talking, you are coming out of winter in your soul. That's the
Hmm.
wording that you use. So you're moving
Hmm.
into a spring blossoming period in your life.
Yeah, past 2 years have been really, I don't want to say the word hard because it doesn't seem fair. It hasn't been fun. Let's
Mm-hmm.
put it that way. So it doesn't feel like, I mean, it's so weird how sometimes you just shift of like, does something feels a little more muted? And logically, it doesn't make sense. Your spirit, your soul, whatever, just feels a little muted. And rereading back through some stuff, just having to give myself permission. Like, this year, it's okay to say no a lot. This
Mm.
year, it's okay to move a little slower. This year, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to not grow. This year, it's okay to not make as much money. This year, it's okay, and giving yourself permission to rest. And I think what's interesting about that is figuring out the line, the distinction between a season to push yourself past discomfort and then also a season to honor the natural rhythm of where you're at. And I know deep down that naturally where I was at, I needed to pull back. And the end of last year, 2024, a couple weeks ago, I just felt this really strong starter energy again, like almost fierce. And it's come up for me kind of just in my spirit of like, okay, Heather, this is the result of real rest. You know, this is what it feels like to be fully rested because you've spent some time actually really resting. And this isn't a forced energy. This is a natural energy. And so, God willing, I'm really excited about this year and creating some stuff.
That's so exciting. Now, how do you communicate? You're a mom. I mean, let's talk
Hmm.
about the fertility aspect. You're a
Hmm.
mom. You have two
Hmm.
kids.
Hmm.
Do you talk about spirituality
Oh,
and
yeah.
are open with like, yeah, isn't it fun like to communicate with our kids
It is.
and be
And
open to accept what they say?
yeah, it is. And then it's also, again, if I would have gone back 10 years ago and say that I wouldn't have my kids in church or I wouldn't be
Oh,
teaching them, it's not that I don't teach them the Bible. I think there's a lot of really good principles in there and things that, have been brought up in scriptures and stuff like that. But not having just like a really exclusive one way track has just been really, I've had to fight off some guilt and fear around that because I just grew up with that so heavy in my brain that I can see the conditioning, but doesn't mean that it's not still affecting me. So sometimes I really have to wrestle with that. Um, we talk a lot. My oldest is very, very sensitive, probably the most empathic person I've ever met in my life. And so it's been interesting talking through her feelings with her and reframing how your feelings are a gift and that she actually has a spiritual gift to be in tune with things and trying to walk her through and explain it. And it's so funny because I'm like, I'm just now learning this stuff at 38. And here I am trying to explain to a 12-year-old. But I think God, God is so fun because it's like, yeah, you want to learn this stuff. She's actually teaching you more than you're teaching her. I'm just convinced of that. So the girls are pretty tapped in. I think they get the spirit realm, but it's just coming from a completely different place than the way I grew up. And I don't know if it's the right one, to be honest with you, Allison. Like, I hope I'm doing it right. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you are. I mean, we do the best we can with what we
We have.
know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What we have, what
Yeah.
we know. I had a guest that will be on the show that will come out on here who talked about, um, I have had this fear come up of like, oh, like as I grow and as I
Mm-hmm.
realize some of my own experience with conditioning and being in that place and awakening and coming out of it and experiencing the guilt and the
Yeah. Yeah.
shame and the regret, all of that with different relationships. I look at like my relationship and my communication. I mean, every word you say, from like consequences to incentives to everything. And I'm like, oh my God, am I going to mess up my child?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and and what my guest had shared is that no, we're not messing up our children, right? We're, as long as we're growing and expanding, like they are witness to that and experience that.
Amen.
Just
I
you
love that.
having that conversation with your daughter about that. I mean, I remember having a conversation early on with my daughter. I mean, she was like, "Oh yeah, I was in this past life and I had this past life and
Wow.
that
Wow.
like these things." And I'm like,
That's
"Okay,
cool.
great."
That's cool.
Like, you remember that and you're open to that. Where me years ago, I grew up in the
Mm-hmm.
Catholic Church and
Mm.
with the rules and with religion and being shamed if like I felt like I couldn't do something because I was, going to
Right.
be
Right. Right.
punished
Right.
spiritually and
Right.
and like just to have her be so open, it is a gift.
Wow, that is cool.
As I know, isn't it cool? Like as we like watch them evolve, she'll be a guest on here. She wants to talk to me,
Please, that
and
would be
so it
awesome.
would be so fun to have her on. Yeah, so let's round out our conversation with your word for this year. We're recording this now. What I love about podcasts is that, like, we're recording this at this time. It will be released at another time, but it will
Hmm.
just exist, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like in 10 years, somebody could find this and be like, oh, wow, I heard something that I've never heard before. Like, isn't
Hmm.
that so
It's beautiful.
beautiful, right? I mean, and you've been podcasting how many years now?
Oh my goodness. 7, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I've had a lot
And
of
you,
different shows, a lot of different
sure.
iterations. Um, I love making something and putting it out there and just letting it be. You know what I mean? Like it just, if someone finds this, awesome, but there's something that I think just triggers in the universe when someone feels something and they trust that it needs to go out and they put it out there. And a lot of times, we attach outcome to an action without realizing that like, that action stirs something and there's going to be something that comes back to you and it's usually not in the form of the action you think. And so that starter energy is so fun because it's like I always tell people, they're like, oh man, I really need this. And I'm like, do you realize that yeah, there's a strategy. Sometimes it's smart to do XYZ to get to here, but sometimes just the act of acting and the act of creation stir something and put something out into the universe that brings what you want. I don't even know why I'm going off on this rampage, but
No, it's good.
I love that you make things and put it out there. And of course, somebody's going to find this in 10 years. So hello, person who's listening to this years from
We're
now. We are
speaking to
here for
you.
you.
We're
We're
speaking to
here for you.
you, and you
Yes.
need to express
Yes.
your unique gifts and
Yes.
put them out into the
Yes.
world. The person who's
Yes.
listening to this.
Yep.
What's your word for 2025?
Beauty. When I did numerology, the thing it said I was an 8, and I was kind of disappointed because it said 8 is like a high number with feminine energy. And I'm like, dang it, why do I have to have the feminine energy when I want to have a masculine energy? I want to be strong and whatever. And I've just had a really um uh not good narrative around feminine and masculine. And I think a lot of us who grew up in this culture has had that, where especially in religion, where it's taught that there is a hierarchy where, if you think about a physical man, not energy, but physical men are, quote, above women. And, as a woman, you're a little bit less than. And so I know, feminine energy is different than being a woman, but still I've noticed that negative connotation when people talk about feminine energy, it feels less than. And I know that's such a BS story and it's not real. I'm just being honest with you. I had a person of somebody on YouTube, freaking YouTube people, man, it's always get me. But she was explaining an eight, and the way that she explained feminine energy was so transformative for me, where she equated it to like a river of running water. And she said, the river flows and it's movable and it's not stagnant. It's flowy, but it's a force, and it's so strong and it moves things forward, and it's abundant. And I had never equated abundance and feminine energy before. But then you think about like old paintings with feminine, with all these, women with big boobs, and there's fruit and everywhere and all that. Like, man, they're abundant. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, me being feminine, me tapping into femininity is not me lessening myself, but it's tapping into that river, that flow. And so I chose the word beauty, even though I have a very strong starter energy right now. I'm ready to run through a brick wall in 2025. I wanted to remind myself that my abundance, the things, I was put on this earth to do, is going to come from an outflow of being tapped in, as opposed to the grit and the grind, which is something I'm more comfortable and accustomed to.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. As you were speaking, I was refreshing my memory. I was adding up all my numbers. I'm an 8 too. Like my
Oh,
birthday,
yay.
yes, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling all this. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling the power and the beauty of having that.
Mm,
Yeah, these numerology and astrology and human design and birth chart, and these are
yeah.
really just tools, right?
Come
To
on.
kind
Yeah.
of have us tap into things that we have kind of maybe stored in the background, that need to come up and spark
Yeah.
that creativity and that. So much beauty for you
Yeah.
in the
Thank you.
year
Thank
ahead
you.
for
Thank you so much.
moving forward with you and your family and your creative projects that come on. I'm so grateful for you on this planet because you are not only an inspiration to me, but those who will continue to listen. And so I just appreciate you so much and what you bring to the world.
I feel that. I wish I could give you a hug. That means a
I
lot.
know, I
Thank you
know.
so
Like,
much.
give me
Thank
some
you.
hug. And you're, yeah, so genuine. Anything as we wrap up that you feel called to share or impart for those that are listening?
Hmm. Thank you for asking that. I love that. I started a few years ago. On the back of my journal, I put amazing things that have happened. And I've started a practice that whenever something small happens in my life, I just write it in the back of there, because sometimes, as a creator, as someone who feels really called to do big work, I was just on a phone with somebody who says, man, I just know I'm called to do big things. And sometimes life just doesn't feel that big. And I wonder if I'm really reaching my full potential, or um, doing enough, you know? And I felt that so strong in my bones because since I was a little girl, I told you, I knew that I was called to do something big. It sounds so weird saying it, but it's just like, I, if that's you, you know what I'm talking about. But with that comes a lot of judgment, a lot of being very hard on yourself, and not really giving yourself credit of what you are doing and the beautiful things that are coming. I had someone tell me once, some hypnotist person, I don't remember. I've hired a lot of weird people. And he was like, you're living in an illusion. You're fighting for something for the one day, and you don't realize that there's an illusion that it's already here and that you're already
Mm.
doing it. And I had a lot of resistance around that, but I started this practice of writing in the back of my journal great things that have happened. And I'll put things in there like something really big, and then I will put the smallest things in there. But at the end of the year, it's just this beautiful long list. And I'll reread it sometimes when I'm feeling down on myself or feeling like things aren't moving as quickly, and just having a moment of gratitude. Like, thank you, God, for this and that and this and that. And if that's you, if you feel like you're not enough and you're not doing enough, I'm going to tell you, like, if you have that creator starter energy inside of you, it's put there for a reason. And sometimes it doesn't manifest as quickly as we want it to. But like Alison has done with this show and in your work, it's like those small little inches, that small little friction, the small little things, man, it's going to add up and it's going to add up. And we've got to trust that the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable, irrevocable. So it's yes, amen. It's already done, you know? So that's what I feel led to share. Also, if you have not left Alison a review on this podcast, make sure you leave her a 5-star review and a written one that shares how much you enjoy this, and share with a friend, because I think this work that you're doing, Alison, is so important and we need more people tapped in.
Thank you so much. Yeah, what you appreciate certainly does appreciate.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
those little
Yes.
things, and
Yes.
sharing that and speaking to those that, um, know they have that spark within them to
Yeah.
take that forward. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you. And take Heather's advice. Leave me a
Yes. Leave me a
review.
review.
Share it with somebody that you love, and all of the things
That's
to
right.
help us reach more uh, on the path, on their
Mhm.
spiritual path, to express their creativeness, all of that
Creativeness. That's right.
creativeness. Thank you
That's
so
right.
much, Heather.
You're amazing. Thank you.